We should be live. And so today here we are going to do the Rust ValKey, which is basically it's Redis, and it's the new fork of Redis, which I like to use, and the ValKey stream. So we're going to see how we can use the ValKey stream with Rust. Now, why is that useful? Well, is if you go to an architecture like that, I'm going to start like that. If you go in search architecture, this one, the architecture typically of a cloud apps is a multi-service. So you have all of the services here, where you can have your front-end services, which is RPC or over REST, and then your back-end services. The way we like to architect our cloud application to have this big app, small team kind of effect, such as we can scale code and everything scaled well, is the services, they don't talk to each other ever, or very rarely. It's really the exception. What they do is they go to a message bus, a job, a queue kind of things. And people subscribe to the queue, and then they get events from the queue. So that is the way it works. And the trick here, and if you see the stream here, you can let me know if you hear the voice and everything is good. And so in this kind of services here, all of these services, which is service 1, service 2, or whatever, that will be a Lambda, for example, when they talk to the queue, they send application event or system event or data event, and then another one will listen to the queue, and then will get this event and do the job. For example, when you upload a video, an event can say, hey, there's a new video in S3. Then service 1 could be, for example, a service that scales the video to 480p, for example, because we need it for scrubbing or whatever. And so this service will listen to this event, and then will do the job, and then will send another event to the bus saying, hey, the 480p is ready for this video. And then other services can listen to this event. So in many ways here, the benefit of this architecture, and we'll go more on that because I'm going to go much more on system design now with Rust, obviously. So the way that I like to architect now with Rust is all of these parts here, all of these pods. We use Kubernetes quite a bit, but they could be Lambda or they could be Fargate, it doesn't really matter. But all of these services are done in Rust. And some of them might have some Python or JavaScript or whatever when it's really needed. But the goal here for us is to kind of normalize on Rust. Now, even with Rust here, it doesn't mean that we don't need a database. The fact that this database is written in C or C++ doesn't really matter. And doesn't remove the fact that, again, in a multi-service, multi-process distributed system, we want a queue message bus. And so you can use Kafka and everything, and we use a lot, and what we like to do is to use the stream, the ValKey stream, which is the same thing as the Redis stream. They are the same. And so the architecture here of a stream is like that. You have a stream, and a stream is a persistent kind of queue, and Redis allows us to call with XADD. And so every time we call XADD, we add a new record to the stream. And so then it would go up here and we can add. The difference between a stream and publish, subscribe in Redis or ValKey is that a stream is persistent in a way, at least in memory. So even if a listener comes late, he can listen to past events, which is not possible with a publish subscribe. If you are not there, you don't get it. Yeah, you snooze, you lose. But with stream, you can then do an XREAD from the start or from a specific key and then read the one above. Now, where it gets super powerful with stream, and then again, that is a ValKey kind of server, is that we can have these things which is called group, the XREAD group. And that is magical Because now what we can do is to say, well, we have a pod, like for a service, for example, that would be a video scaler, yeah, the one that 480p. Now, what we can say to say, well, I want this video scaler to listen to the new video. Yeah, so there's a new video uploaded in S3, so the message will have the S3 path or whatever. And then I want the pod to be able to take it and to work on it and to trim it down to 480p and then upload it back to S3. The trick here of this pod here is I want to be able to scale it up if I wanted to. And then after you go back to store it in database and it's get tricky. Now with the XREAD group, all of these pods will have the name of the service. This is what we use. Yeah. So it will be the video scaler service where it can scale up and down pods for this service. And a pod is inside, typically there is one container image instance. And so then all of them can do the XREAD group, but because they use that name as a group, they won't pick up twice the same thing. So now we can scale that as much as we want. We don't have to worry about, and Redis does the magic such as every time someone pulls something from this group, then the other one will pull the next one. And so that is magical for Q. It works extremely well. And the beauty of it, and there's quite a bit in event base here, but the beauty of it is that you can have another XREAD group now that reads the same stream. Okay. But now this one could be a video framer, for example. So let's say that we want to frame and somehow we don't want to frame on the 480p, we want to frame on the original, yeah, for example. So here we have many pods that listen and that will do the scaler, we'll upload that. And then we have other service, Kubernetes service with pods that we can scale up and down that will listen the same new video, and then we'll frame them. So once we have this architecture here, the whole thing scales extremely well because I don't want to go too deep right now, but we can have what I call a mapless workflow in a way, such as you don't have to say this service is after this service is after this service. What you say to say this service will listen to those events, and in a way, it can even self-feed itself with, for example, video new. And then it will put in a kind of a queue for us another stream. This is video scaler to do, for example. And so once you do that, your system scales very well. And you can build big system in a very relatively simple system design. So that is kind of the key. Now, the way that we are going to do that, and today we are going to, so I'm mixing a little bit high-level architecture, kind of, to the code here. So what we're going to do is, and feel free to say hi on the chat. I'm assuming everything is going well on the stream. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to use a crate, and the crate is, if we go there, I'm going to do crates, and I'm going to go to Redis. Okay, so it's the Redis crate here. Hey, Prem. All good. Thank you, Make Stuff. So now we're going to use this one. This one is a big one. It works with Redis and it works with ValKey. I don't want to go too deep into the whole ValKey and Redis kind of things. The good news is Redis went back to a true open source license, AGPL v3, which still has string attached for big service provider. So I'm not judging either way, but the ValKey has a lot of momentum right now from Linux, AWS, and Google. So typically what like for me, I will typically go with ValKey. And now it's very robust. They have a very fast release cycle. It's 8.1 is very impressive because it's multi-threaded somehow. So they added that, which is super impressive because adding multi-threaded to a single-threaded C++ beast takes some work and some skills. And they have those skills. And they did the work. So it's good stuff. Yeah. So that is the thing. And here I am, and you go to the documentation, the common reference, and they have this nice kind of search where we're going to do. Now, for the stream kind of business is what is called XADD. So you have those X commands, XADD, XREAD. I mean, here obviously is not to start with, but you have XREAD, XREAD, and all these kind of things. So that is what you have to read the thing. So we're going to start from scratch. I did a little prep yesterday, so I know where I'm going to land today, and I did it live. I have it unlisted because this one should be the smoother kind of version. But now the good news here for everybody is all my public live stream will remain public indefinitely. So that's the good news. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to start the project. So what I often do is like that. And the way I'm doing it here is a way that I will do it for myself to learn Redis, create and so on. So I used it a couple of years ago. So that is kind of a refresh kind of for me. And also I'm going to really put it into some of our production coding. So this is kind of a learning with a goal of creating a mini library, a template in a way that I can use in other applications. So what I do typically is I do this Rust XP, which is experiment, example, or whatever, ValKey and things. I have probably almost 50 of those XP on all the different texts. So that is where I learn. If you go to pwd, I have .jme, Rust XP. And then within that, I have many XP. So that is the way it works. I have a gitignore, which is my Rust 10x over there, extension, which has a nice autocomplete here where I do the more. And that gives me all of those fail-safe ignore. Otherwise, when I put big files, you know, they get committed and I don't like it. So I initialize my Git, and the initial is just a gitignore for this example. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to start, and we want to start with Redis and so on. So there's a couple of ways we can do it. I can do it by hand. It's fine. I could have created a tool to do my templates of XP, but now we have AI. And so we're going to use AI Pack, which is something which is built in Rust and works with any AI. And we have a pro coder, which is a pack that allows me to do pro coding. So that is how I do production coding with AI. We're just going to do the template, and then we're going to go deep in the code. So first, what we're going to do is you install AI Pack. For the one that doesn't know, you go to aipack.ai. It's a command line. You install it. Okay. Then you do AIP, install Pro Coder. So that will be the Pro Coder pack. And then you do AIP, install Pro at Rust 10x. And that is a pack which has knowledge, doesn't have any agents, but it has the best practices that I have in my YouTube channel. So many of the best practices are there, and I'm going to continue to add those. So that is pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is, don't look at that. That is a way for me to put my API keys in the environment variable, because that is the way it works. I do AIP, check keys, and that will tell me you have all of these keys. So I set them all for me, but you guys use whatever you want. Now I do AI Pack, run pro at coder, and that's my style. Don't like to code in web UI. Don't like to code in terminal. Don't like to code in chatbox. That's my style. I like files. And so the pro coder, it's a pack. So AI Pack is a runtime, and Procoder, it's a pack on top of it. And the design of Procoder is to use a file, which is creating there. It could have created anywhere. And that allows me to do my prompt the way I want it. And it's a parametric prompt, meaning that with 2ML, could be even YAML, I can give properties that AI Pack understand. So for example, here we're going to say base dir, we are on things 2ML like that, and then I go back there, and here is the magic. We can even code AI Pack with AI Pack like that. But right now we're going to use this one. Remember, we did the install pro. So pro is a namespace. Rust 10x is the pack name. And then within it, I have files. and then it's got guides, base, and this one. So like this, I have all the base guidelines that I have. So I do that, it's good, the structure blog. This is an alias here that we can, I also have the alias in the config2ml here and in the home AI pack config. I'm going to write true. I'm going to use gpro, it's just an alias here to this one, I like gpro. And I'm going to say, can you start XP project, XP, ValKey, stream, okay? With one hello world, C01, simple, use async and Redis in the cargo. Okay, do that, press here, press R. That will create the thing. So now is the way I work here. So this live here, what I want to show is the way I work, and I will see if it resonates over time. But this is a way I need to learn ValKey stream. And so my goal is to say, hey, start a project, XP ValKey. I have my AI pack. You can use whatever you want, obviously. And then I use AI to help me. But I don't trust AI. Yeah. So it's not vibe coding. It's not because you have AI generating one file that suddenly is vibe coding. Vibe coding is you code, but you don't understand, or you don't even try to understand what it generated. AI coding, production coding, is you control the whole beast, yeah? Input and output. So that is exactly my best practice. I have the XP there, this and this, edition, and then it follow all my best practice. I have these things that I toggle on and on. It did this, and now I know that AI is always a little bit behind on the crate. So on this one, I'm going to know that it will probably get the wrong one. Yeah, 32.1. Oh, they updated it since yesterday. So we're going to take this one, obviously, and we're going to put that number over there, and we're going to keep that guy here, which is a Tokyo kind of thing. So that's good. And then that follows my best practices. It created a lib here, which is empty. It's interesting. It didn't create the error. Sometimes it does. And then it created my main error. So that's pretty cool. And so that is my pattern. Yeah, when I do an XP, I do like this, and then I have the C01, C02, and things. And that is a lib. And the reason why it's a lib is because later, what we're going to do is we are going to, we are going to, sorry, I'm moving stuff around. Later, what we're going to do is we're going to have multiple examples to learn gradually, yeah, the library. So that is the way I do. So like this, I can go back to simple use cases and so on. So now I have this, and we are going to have another terminal over there. So I do my terminal over there. Yeah, so like this, I have stuff. And then I'm going to git add. And I'm going to work on main. Sometime I work on another branch, but right now I'm going to work on main. Do I? No, I'm not going to work on main. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a branch, which is going to be the XP live 01. So that is that branch over there. And now we are going to do git add. I don't understand why I don't have all the little stuff, but just fine. Git status. Okay, so it added all of this. And I'm going to do git c minor first XP scaffold. Now, here's the cool things I'm going to do for you. I'm going to go, wait a second. So what I like to do as well, and I have something over there, so I'm not going, so this way I don't waste too much time. What I like to do is, this is actually there. So that is this repo. So I put all of this learning repo in Jeremy Sean channel, and then I have this guy. So you can follow live. And we're going to do that. We're going to see, it's pretty cool. So we're going to do the README. And what I often do in the README is at the end, I put the link back to the same repo because otherwise it's a pain sometimes to find it. So I put that. I'm going to go on git log. Okay, git amend. I think I forgot of F, but that's fine. It will show my French. And so git amend. I don't know why I don't have the little plus over there. Okay, so now I have, oh, no, git add, git amend, okay? So now I have this file, which should be checked in. And now we're going to do a git push, a GPO, so that is git push origin, or origin dash u, I guess. And I'm going to do XP live 01. I think that will work. Boom. So now if you go back to that, and I'm going to put that in the chat. Okay, and I'm going to merge it to main at the end of the session, but I'm going to go there. So if I mess up, we'll have the thing. So if you go to the chat here, you can see, you can clone that guy, and you can, and then you can go to reload, and then you can go to this one. So that was the one we did yesterday, and this is going to be the new one. This one is a disposable one in a way. And so that is going to be the new one, and that will be sort of merge into the main. So you can go there, and you will see the first scaffolding. Okay, so now we have that, and that is pretty cool. We are going to do, now what we want to do is to start the ValKey. So we go to the server over there. And so the way I like to do it is to start it with Docker. So the way to do download, and we're going to see if this is the Docker. Yeah, so that is the Dockers. We're going to run the default one, this one. And then I'm going to set it there. Yeah. SH, that. And then the thing I forgot yesterday to do is we need to add a port here. And I don't remember what is the port number. So let's do that. So I'm going to have another one. Usually I put it in another terminal, but for now we're going to put it there. So the port is that guy. So if we run it like that, we cannot connect to it from our process on our host because it's not there. Yeah, it's not accessible. So it opened a port, but it's opened it inside the container. So what we want now is to map this port to the same one outside. Yeah, so that should work now. Hopefully that is the thing. Yeah. So now I have the 6379 port mapped to that Docker at the same port number. So that is the way it works. So now that we have that, we have our little kind of Docker. And I think if I go, do I have go here? Oh, it's here. We'll have here, and we can see it. It's over there. Okay. So those are my builder here to build the AI pack on Linux, ARM, and 86. Okay. So we have that now, and we're going to do the thing, which is, that's good. And what we want to do is kind of the hello world. So in our C simple here, what we want is the hello world of Redis. And for that, the way I like to do it, and again, this is not what we're going to use because we're going to use Redis for a stream. So we're not going to use Redis for caching, but that is the things. Hey, Joem from Colombia. Welcome. So what we want is to have the hello world. So the way I do it is now I'm going to go to the Redis guy. I'm going to go there. And I'm going to scroll down. So that we have this. And this one seems to be a very good hello world kind of things. Okay, so we'll put that, copy, paste. I could have asked AI, but again, the thing I've learned with AI here is that the guy is a little bit behind. So, you know, it's fine. Copy, paste is as soon as, and the goal here is not to blast through the Redis API, is to really understand it. And then we'll use AI. So again, use AI as much as you can. Yeah. So this stuff of not using AI because we're top developers, it's silly. It's as silly as using AI to produce code people don't understand. The vibe coding stuff. People are going to get hurt. And we're going to have some blog posts in 6 months, 1 year saying, oh my God, this is broken and stuff. Yeah, because people didn't understand what they were coding. Yeah. So you have to control it, but you have to use it. So this is the thing. So we're creating a connection. So yesterday here in the prep, I realized that we need to put the port number over there because otherwise it will complain, which makes sense. So I'm not sure why the example does it this way, but I might be missing something. Get connection to get the connection, and then the set, and then here is complain, but we took that from the sample. So it's usually because it's missing a trait. Yeah. So this one is the commands, that guy. Okay. So that should be good now. We have the set and we have the get here, which complain, which is interesting. Again, I'm not sure. And I think, okay, my question in my head is, what does it complain? And here it is. The reason why it doesn't complain here, because it wouldn't put code that doesn't compile in a way, is because here we know the type that it needs to return. So again, when you copy code from what's the name? A library, you know that this code is going to be working mostly. Yeah. So here is not about trying to debug the issue, it's to say, okay, why this one didn't work in our case? And then here we know that now the compiler knows that is that guy. So we can do this one, and we're going to do let, and we can do res. I like to use res. And then we're going to do I32, whatever, because it's I32 we put in. And then we do a question mark, yeah, because that will be probably an error. Or would be an error. Yes, with this result. Okay, so now we do that, and we're going to do a 1P. So that is one of the snippets that come with Rust 10x extension. And then I do the res. Press save. And then I'm going to go back on that guy. And I'm going to do. No, I think it should work. I think you are right, Xavier. We're going to test that. So I'm going to do a git CWE. I'm going to put those guys in my Rust 10x. I'm sorry. It's shell function that I have, which is just do a cargo watch -q -c thing. But so like this, I can execute the run examples. So basically that is cargo run -- example C01, simple. Okay, I need to put that. So I like those. I was using Bacon, but Bacon is almost too fancy. The simplicity of cargo watch, even if it's on maintenance mode, I like it because there's no noise and it's just print, and then you can clear the terminal. So it's very cool. So that's it. We have that. So now we are going to test what you're saying here, since port number is exposed. And I think yesterday in the prep video, I got confused because I didn't export the port before, I think. So we're going to go back here and then slash, which is weird to put a slash, but boom, press save, boom, 42, you were right. And so for me, I'm going to put a little comment, because again, those guys is for me, yeah? Or So again, the goal of my XP here is not only this live. Yes, I'm doing that because I need to learn, I need to refresh myself. I did a whole video a while back. And I also need to start putting the things into kind of a library that I can use as my production web app. So that's why I'm doing, and again, I'm doing that live rather than doing that by myself. So I want to have this node such as when I come back to it, I can find that. So now I have this, I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to open a new guy, I guess. And I'm going to do a git C, which is git commit -a-m. And I'm going to say plus, because we are adding something. So yeah, kind of, yeah. C01, simple, ValKey, get, set get. Okay, boom. So we have this guy, we are super happy and thanks, and I'm going to git push it. You can find it live again in the URL that I have when you go to the branch, the one that just joined. This is real live coding. If you go to XP Live 01, so if you go to that, GitHub branch for today. Boom, done. So that's pretty cool. And then we have that, but that is not what we're going to use. That is just to make sure that everything works. That is a way thing. Now, what we're going to do is a C02, where now we're going to use the XADD and all of this kind of thing. So what we want here now is to do that kind of guy, yeah, where we're going to XADD, and XREAD. Today, I don't know, depending on the time, we might not do the XREAD group, but we'll do at least the XREAD, yeah, these two guys. And we'll do sync and async as well. So it's going to be cool. So going back here, and then what we're going to do, so two ways in my head here, either I create it with AI, the whole C02 things, or I create it by hand. All the time, every time I do something, that is a new question I have in my head. So I'm going to create it by hand because it's simpler and I want to go slowly. Sometimes it's slow is faster. Yeah. So that is the thing. So I'm going to stop this guy. So this guy is good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that. And yeah, so I'm removing, it will go with the other commit here, but I'm removing that because my debug print, since that will be a library, eventually I want to do libraries, I like to have this notation, the one I have like this, to be only for debug print, and therefore they should be removed. And so those guys are not, they are debug at some point, but this one is not a debug, it's part of the example now. So I can remove the debug print, such as when I search, I can remove all the debug print notation. So we're going to have this, for the sake of it, I'm going to do a git add. And now I'm going to do git C, and I'm going to do a C02 XADD. And my goal here is to amend it. So here I'm going to amend, such as this commit is kind of clean. Otherwise, I will have put a tilde, which is in the work in a way. So that's my strategy here. And that is because I've done the prep work yesterday. So I know a little bit where I want to land. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove these guys. We don't need that anymore. And then I have the connection. This, I really don't like this slash, anyway. Connection, and now we want to do the XADD. So the way that the XADD works in ValKey is important to really understand the thing. And again, the goal of ValKey stream is to have a distributed event bus that we can use from different kind of services, which is front-facing services or back-facing services. Event-based architecture is it's always a little bit trickier to implement but once you get it, it's one of the things that once it works, the code much simpler and scale better. Simple always scale better. So it's harder to get it right. I mean, it's harder to get the pattern in place, but once you are used to it, you just put them in place, and then the thing scales very well. You don't have crazy stuff and all these kind of things. So that is why this one is important. And it's important to really understand very well, the beast. So now the way here that we're going to do it, that was there. We're going to go to ValKey. We're going to go to documentation reference, and then is this famous XADD. So you can read the whole thing, and it's good to understand. So the library is good, but it's also good to understand the underlying command in a way, okay? And so here we do a XADD, we give a key, which is a stream name, okay? I think that is an option to say if it doesn't exist, complain, otherwise it will create it on the fly. And those are all advanced functions here that where you can add and also say, trim the thing from the bottom. Yeah, not from the top, obviously, but from the bottom, such as you don't have a ever-growing list. So that is a thing. And then the trick to understand here is a field value business. So what you do here, and again, it's a string protocol. Yeah. So what you do is you have the field, which is a name, value, name, value. So it's kind of a hash map, name and string all the time. So now that we have that, we're going to, now that we know that, we're going to do an XADD, and we're going to do our stream 01. And in fact, there were a good pattern that the AI did for me yesterday. We're going to do let's stream name, okay? And we're going to do C02 stream, or we're going to do actually this one, stream C02, okay? So that's good. Now that we have that, we are going to do a next add, and we are going to put the XADD like that. And we're going to look at the function. So here's the things that threw me off yesterday, and it threw me off pretty badly. When I went there, so the way I like to do, typically when I do Rust programming, is I don't go too much to the doc. Yeah, so I don't go there somehow. And it's awesome. Yeah, I'm not saying the doc is bad. So first of all, I'm confused all the time to know how to find it from here, but you can find it from Redis, from here. I'm sure it's there, but. And then, so this one has a very specific doc, will go there. But usually you have these kind of things. And for me, they're always hard to navigate. Even if they have the cool search and stuff, I never really find what I want. So I go with the example, typically. So what I will do is I will go there, repository. And then in the repository, I will go, this one is a Redis, create probably examples. And then I will look at those guys. Yeah. So they don't have, they have stream actually. And then the stream, yeah, that is what I've seen yesterday. And then this one is a little bit, it's cool to have this, but it's too much code in a way. I want my sample to be much more low level kind of things. Yeah. But it's not bad. I mean, this is obviously good, yeah. But I'm saying, like, for me, I don't want to have all these kind of things. I want everything in one function, such as I can really understand the API. And then I will do my wrapper and everything. But it's cool to have that. So usually I go there, and then after I use the API, and then I do a command click. Now, the thing I've learned yesterday is that, well, you think you're on the function here. A function, and then everything is there. You say, okay, I get it. But in fact, if you really think through, it doesn't make sense, because this is not pub, so we shouldn't get it. And then this is a weirdo guy. You will see that we don't get that back. And then there's no self. So there's no way that this guy can do, except if key has a stream connection and stuff, which would be very weird. It shouldn't work. Yeah? There's no way it should work. And in fact, if you go back, and here I am in the Redis code, yeah? The way, if you go back way on top, so this one's throw me a little bit out. But it's good code. I'm not saying the code is bad. I'm just saying it's one thing to watch out when you click to make sure that we are not inside a declarative macro. So we were inside the declarative macro, so it looks like function. So I was like, okay, I get it. And then I got confused because we're going to see that doesn't return this type in a way. So it was very confusing because I thought it was it and not. And in fact, this implement command here rewrite the function. It's pretty advanced, but they do these kind of things. So, and it's cool they do that. And I think they do that because they have these two adapters. We can have sync or we can have async. And so obviously I think they didn't want to repeat the same code twice. Yeah. So I think but there has to be different functions because now, they're strongly typed and they don't want to do, I don't even think that it would work with dynamic dispatch. So anyway, so basically that's their way of saying, doing this mapping there with the macro. So there's good reason. And it's pretty cool design here, what they have. So I might look at it for later, but it can throw you off. So that's why they do these kind of things over there. So now we're going to see it, but now if you click on it, you still see ID and items, okay? So the first one is a key, then is the ID. So in stream, in ValKey or Redis stream, you have this business of ID. So if you go to the doc, so the best way here to spend the time here to do that, they explain you here the ID. The best way is to use star. Star tells Redis, you create the ID, I'm not in the ID business. So my recommendation 100% is use star for at the beginning at least. And then if you get very fancy, you can go there. So this ID will be unique for that Redis instance. Yeah. And so what you want is to use that. And so here they're giving us all this advanced stuff. But the point is we can put star here, and that will tell Redis, you create the ID for me. And then we do the name value. And the name value, if we click on it, we see that is an item, and it's a reference of an array of a tuple of two name value pair, and they need to implement those guys. So we're going to assume here that we can do something like that. And I know it works because they said it works. So we're going to do a name, for example. And we're going to do Sarah. It's what they had in one thing. So again, it's name value pair, and that is a tuple. So that will be actually wrong here. Try to do a tuple like that. Okay. And because static strings, they have implemented that guy, we are good to go. So that is a good way when you implement you create, think about your trait and then implement the from, and then it's a nice way here to do that. So in fact, here they are saying we want that, and that's probably getting updated by something like that. Yeah, because no, I'm sorry, this is fine. I was messing up. So that is a way that they have, making sure I don't save that. And so that is pretty good. And now this is a trick here where you have to do it the way they've done it. You need to tell the type that goes back. If you do this, it will complain. You won't know the type. So you have to do these kind of things. So that's one. And then they return an error. And that is where it gets confusing. If you try to understand the type here, it gets very confusing because, again, this function gets rewritten with a proper result and everything. So bottom line is we are going there. We had this. And then what we want is to be able to read it now. Yeah? So we added name Sarah. And so we're going to do something like that. We're going to do that. And then we're going to do con XREAD, and we are going to have our stream name. And then, so we go back to the XREAD stream name. So it's an array, because the cool things with Redis is you can read more than one stream at a time. And that is super powerful because, again, you can have multiple queues and read one more at a time. Now, you have this ID business in Redis stream, which is very important. And then the ID things is to say, where do you want to read it from? Yes, because again, we have this persistent stream in a way of data that it goes there from there to there every time we add. So you have to say, when I read it, where do I read it from? So I can say, I want to read it from anything new since I'm calling you. So that is a $ kind of ID. You can say 0. So 0 is at the beginning. So it will look for the next one higher than that, which will always be the first record. So you can do that. Or you can give the ID of the last one, and then it will give you the ID just after it. Yeah? So that is the way it works. So if we go back there, we are going to do an extreme XREAD. And so that needs to be in an array. The API is quite ergonomic. It's quite cool. And then we're going to give the ID for the first one. So the 2 are the array, yeah, because we can do that. And we're going to give for now 0. Because if we were going to add $, we will get nothing. We're going to do that later. But we're going to get nothing because we are doing the read after we added. So $ means give me something after I ask you. So we're going to get 0, and that should give one guy. And now the question is, what is the type of that guy? Okay, so XREAD might have, what does it complain? The trait from Redis value. Okay. I think, okay. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to look at my stuff of yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, so that is one thing which is a little bit confusing with this API, because now we cannot read it there. If we go to the document, Rust doc, XREAD. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it doesn't really. Oh, Redis result stuff RV. What is it? RV from Redis value. Okay, yeah. So that is a from Redis value. So I think one way of doing it, and we're going to do it, it's this type here. Yeah, so that will work. So that will get a Redis reply, which will have the keys. And so the keys is the record here. I mean, every stream stuff. And then after it goes there. You have the string, which is the name of the stream. And that is confusing here. So you have IDs, which is actually the entries, which is a vector of stream ID, which is actually stream entry. So I don't know who, maybe Redis that calls them ID, but now it's confusing because this guy has a .id and then he has a data. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So now we have that, yes. So you were right, Xavier, about this one. It was just, usually the way I do it, I go there, I'm happy, I take this. And yesterday I got super confused because that didn't work. And then I realized the function was getting rewritten. And so when you go to the doc on this one, you do have to read at the doc. But even there, I don't know how yesterday I managed to find out. that it was. Yeah, I don't know how I found out it was stream that is sent back. Yeah, this value here, this type. Read this result. Not really sure, but I get it. So basically the RV is whatever, I mean, they all do the same thing. The RV is whatever implement this guy from Redis value, which in our case, stream read reply implements obviously somewhere. There's something somewhere that implements it. And so we have that, and then we have these guys. So that is good because we are generic and we want to understand the generic stuff. So this is a way you get the Redis, and then you're happy. And I think actually the way I found it, I just want to show it in the live because I think I found it here. I want there, and I want two streams. Yeah. So I found it there. You know, when they have, I want to the example, and I found it there. I could have asked AI, but this is where I found it in the example. So, and that is one of the pitfalls. Again, I'm a big fan of Rust. Nothing is perfect. And I don't think there's a good solution for that, or it could have been better. I'm not saying that. In Rust, sometimes when things use macro, documentation become a little bit more challenging sometimes. So we get the stream ready, and then that gives us all the stuff. All of this generic, which implement, yes, this is correct. So, so this is a good thing, yeah, because I say savior here is, if you go to the XREAD here, this one is a wrong API to look at. I need to change my reflex on that guy. But anything that implement from Redis value, so then you can implement your own, obviously, and then they have. So that is a correct way to do APIs. This is awesome. Some people will say, well, that will create a bigger binary, but you can mitigate that by having an indirection of a function call here, and then everything will be fine. But the ergonomic and the power of the API is much better. So that's my recommendation usually, is that the things the user facing should implement those patterns. Should not abuse it, but here is very powerful. So now we have this, and we're going to do the res, and that is what I will do, something like that. And I will press save. I don't know why I did that there. I shouldn't have done that. And then it's C2, XADD. Boom. And we have, so we created that. 0 makes sense because it's the internal counter for this time. And then it does a map, and then we have the name things. So again, if you have a value. Now, one thing super important is, for example, if you have something like that, and you want to do another surname, no. So now if I press save, I'm going to have, so I always have 1, yes, because, why do I always have 1? Because I'm already asking 1. Yeah. Now, what we could do, yeah, we'll do that later. So we add 1 stuff. Now, in the database, actually, we have more than 1. Yeah, because now we have 2 server, probably 3 even, or whatever. Every time we press save, we're adding 1 to the stream. So here we're like looking at the bottom guys, not at the top guy. So for example, if we were saying Mike, we're going to change Sherry's here, Donovan. Press save. We're not going to see Mike. Are we going to see Mike? Why are we seeing Mike? Oh. Yeah, sorry. I'm confusing with the XREAD async. So when we're going to read here, we're not saying how many. Yeah, okay, I'm confusing. This is actually very cool. So remember, when we see the API here, it's giving us a stream key, which has a stream name all the time, and then the IDs. And then, so since we are reading from 0, it's going to give us everything from the beginning of time. Typically, you wouldn't do that. Typically, you will have an option. So you have an XREAD. Let's see the doc here, because this one is always a little bit confusing. But XREAD option. And then if you click on the option guy over there, you are going to have a count. Set the maximum number of guys that we want to count. So now we can do that. I'm going to do that for myself, actually. So this, I'm going to be there. And I'm going to say, read all, no, sorry. So we're going to do the add, and then here we're going to do the read all. It's not stream IDs, stream records. Yeah. And then from the start. Okay. Now, if we wanted, or we could have done something like that. Well, actually, no. Or record for stream name. Okay, so that is what we have. Boom, of record for stream name. We have all of that. And then we're going to do another one like that. So again, the goal of this, and I use AI here because I wanted to bootstrap the thing at the beginning. But here I'm not using AI because I want to digest it myself. Then I will use AI to create and stuff with my best practices and stuff, but I will be able to spot when the thing doesn't work the way I want it to work. Yeah. So here it's kind of more learning. So here we're going to read only one entry. Okay, whatever it's, one record, whatever it is. So now I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go back, read this guy, and let options, and I'm going to do import that. Probably has a default. Does it have a default? Then, so usually in my API, I like to have with and everything, to have sometimes a builder when it's a simple object like that within the struct. I don't like necessarily to create another kind of things because it makes the API very kind of nice. You can do it as well. You could do something like that. That would be a valid pattern as well. They don't have it, but that would be okay if you want to have the builder aside. But here we're going to do that, and then we're going to do options.max. No, count. Okay, that's cool. Count 1. So here I do the count, the autocomplete to see. I'm going to click on this guy. It's a mute self. This is perfect. So that is the way they have. I do with, but that's perfectly fine. So you do count 1. Boom. Done. We have that, and we're going to do a read, XREAD, and then, so I do the underscore because I'm assuming that there's stuff later. I'm lazy to go and click on the doc. I'm going to use this guy, and I'm going to assume that the option is at the last, which is often what's happening. It's not. I'm lazy. I know that this guy stuff is a reference of option, which makes sense. And then reference of option, click save. Boom. Now, record for stream name. And then I'm going to just put it in one line because it's getting, okay, that's very good. So we have only one, which is a Sarah, which is what we added at the beginning of time. Yeah. So That makes sense. We have the 0, so obviously, we have only the first one. Now, if we were going to use $, so that is a specific kind of, you cannot use star. Yeah? If you do star, it should be kaboom. If you use star, we should have kaboom over there, an error signal, server, that's good. And then we're going to do $, which is one of the possible. And $, means give me something that come after, but here we're not blocking, so it doesn't really make sense, but that come after I'm asking. And here is going to say, well, there's nothing. Yeah, so that's pretty good. And those one are blocking, so it doesn't have any, it doesn't wait, yeah, but there is a way to block. We're going to see that later. So on this one, we want that. So now that works pretty well. Make sure that we don't have things. I'm going to search to make sure I don't have my debug print. And then I'm going to go to this guy, git log to know where I am. And I'm going to say, yeah, git amend. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Push it. You have it on your side now. All good. Now, so again, the cool thing here, I mean, I'm always excited about stuff, but it's when I do the live coding, not all the time, but I will try, and if people like it, I will do it more and more. But you have the GitHub over there, this one. So you can click there, you will get there, and you can see the code, or you can even play with it as I'm playing with it. So that is pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is we say, well, we want to use async. And in fact, we want to use, well, there's two things we want to do. Let's see what I did. Yeah, so we're going to use async right now. And we're going to learn how to loop through. So typically what's happening is the same process might listen. It's not, might listen and send events, but to different stream, not to the same one. Typically, it will be different ones. And so in our example here is going to be the same guy, the same stream. So that is what we're going to learn. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. We can do it manually, or we can do it, again, via AI. It's always a question I have in my head without any shame. So we're going to do with AI here, the AI pack thing. So I'm using Procoder. You can go to aipack.com and the Substack, and then there's example over there. But what we're going to use is, I have my best practices, I have the context, the model, we're going to use this guy. So that is alias, we're going to write. And then one thing very important is, we want to make sure that everything has been committed when you use AI. So a good Git discipline is very important. Again, people that say that is vibe coding is the opposite. No vibe coder will do that. They will get sick, they will run away. Yeah. So they want to chat and prompt only. So here we have the full control of everything. So now what I'm going to do is actually, we have the full control, but not of everything. The source here, we don't really care. We could comment this guy in. So in 2ML, you can have multi-lines array. You cannot have, unfortunately, multi-line objects. But that works pretty well. And so I'm going to do example. And actually, the way I like it to do, usually I do that. Shift, drag, boom, got it there. Okay? So now that is part of the context. So I'm going to say following the C02 dot XADD, create C03 async.rs, which will use Tokyo task to send and read events. I'm going to do that. I'm using GoPro, and then boom, run. So that will create the stuff. I could have done it by hand. I'm saying, well, the guy might, create the way I want it, and that I might save time. So every time is about saving time. The nice things about, obviously I'm biased, yeah, but Procoder and everything is, I see the duration, I see the cost for this request. the prompt token in and stuff, and the number of files I gave. So here there is 9 knowledge files, and here there should be 1 or 2 context files, I guess. Yeah. We're going to wait a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little bit time here. We could have used Flash 2.5. Sometimes it's pretty good. But with a Pro, sometimes it's fine. I think it's now Google is getting overloaded. If you have any question, feel free to ask below. Always good. And so in this channel here, I'm going to try to live stream much more. If you have any feedback, send it to me. Go to my Discord if you want. Ping me on my Discord server, or one-on-one, saying what you like, what you didn't like, and so on. So feel free to give me feedback. It's always good. So that was a little bit on the long side, but I do think that stuff. Press save, it compiles. That's pretty cool. And then let's review it. Oh, wow. It's better than yesterday in the prep. We did the prep things. Look at that. That's cool. Okay. So now the trick of what we just did here is the risk is that we don't learn well because it created quite a bit of things. Yeah. So what we want is to understand what it created, because again, this event stuff is going to be at the core of our applications. And so we don't want to make assumptions that we don't understand, and then it goes bad. Yeah. So this multiplex async stuff, we can click here. We see that they have all this fancy Rust stuff, which makes sense because they have a quite good documentation. So what we're going to get, we're going to go back to this one. We're going to copy paste that. And we're going to go to that just to understand. Enable. Okay, so we don't have much information over there. There was some good information yesterday, and every time I'm confused how to find it back. There was some good information. Okay, here. So you go to async, and then they explain here. Yeah, so that is the async over there. And then they explain how it works. So again, in their case, they do set get. So set get, you can kind of query after one another and everything is fine. In our case, it's tricky because we want to have these things rolling. Yeah. So there's a whole little thing. So we're getting the connection. So the stream name is more kind of, I think so we're getting the connection. Let's keep the symmetry with the rest. Okay, sorry. So I like symmetry kind of thing. So we get the, okay. Yeah, okay. So that is funny because it's doing something here that we saw yesterday. Interesting. Here's F. Okay. So yesterday in the prep things here, what we've learned, or we thought we've learned, is even if in the doc, when you read the stuff somewhere, they said that this connection can be cloned, you don't need a connection pool. And that I do think that you don't need a connection pool, but that you can reuse for the right, you can just clone it. And that is what they are doing here. It's pretty cool. They are doing 5 here. It's actually a very cool. You did better than yesterday. And then sleep. So here we have the writer that uses the clone of the connection to write. And then it clones the connection, and then it reads from the last ID. My God, it did it pretty good here. And then that's perfect. How did it do that? It's what we had yesterday. So then after stream read option default, count 1 and block 2000. So it will read and it will wait 2000 milliseconds, so 2 seconds, to get the answer. We make the request over there. We're asking this guy back. So we're making this request with the option. This is, I hate that. So this is why my example, I don't do that. I do not do that. So what do I do? So we will take care of this one. I don't like unwrap anywhere. So the net value of removing and write everywhere, which is here, and you would say, oh, it's okay. It's higher than leaving it once and then getting it in production code. So like for me, I don't like. So I will kind of probably do a expect, yeah. But it's not even an expect because I want to. Yeah, I will do something like this, at less than expect, but even an expect, I don't like it. Here, the trick is I cannot do a question mark because I am within a closure or kind of an async block. So I will have to treat that in a way, but we're going to do that for now. So I get the result, and then if there is some result, then you say, hey, receive that. That's cool. That's very cool. And then if it's not, you say reader timeout, writer is done. And then that's it. Hey, X, we are redoing the things of yesterday here in a more streamlined way. And then writer handle and reader handle await. So we wait for the two guys. Here we could have done a Tokyo join, I guess, but that is completely fine. That's completely fine. Yeah. So we wait for the reader. That's good. Println, okay, that's fine. And then we clean up. That's pretty cool. It generated very good. I mean, I'm pretty happy, actually, stuff. So now I'm going to go back on this terminal over there, and then I'm going to go git add and git c plus, yeah, C03 async. First pass, okay? And that is because I want to send it to you. So again, if you go to the URL over there, you will have the code on your side, which is pretty good. So now that we have this, we're going to run it. So I'm not sure, a little off topic, but is await on the task handle what you meant keeping the service running? So one of the questions here, and just to give a little bit of context, is when we have these things and this reader, in that architecture, when we have all of the services that read different stream, what we want is these services, in a way, to read forever. Yeah, we don't want it to stop at the first job, yeah, so we want to keep it looping. And so, yeah, I'm not sure if it's a wait or if it's definitely not a select, but it could be a try, join, or something like that. There's a pattern that I use in... so yes, it's kind of things you don't want to end the process, yeah? So in this way, what you are saying is to say, here what we're saying is to say, hey, as long as those guys are looping through, whatever they decided to loop through, then it will do whatever it does. Yeah. So here in this case, the AI decided, which is a good decision, is say, whereas the writer will write 5 guys, it will be 200 milliseconds apart. And then the reader will start reading, okay? And then the reader will start reading, and then it will block for 2,000 milliseconds. So that should be plenty enough to, the gap or whatever. And then it will kind of output. And then when there is none between these 2-second window, then it will break the part. So this guy will end. So yes, and the answer to the question is that's one way in this example to have the thing. So in a way, this one is the driving force of when everything is going to stop, assuming that everything comes within 2-second windows. So we're going to do that, and we're going to CWE, which is again a shell function I have, C03. So that is just a cargo watch run example of -- example of C01 async. We do that, and then boom, boom, boom. It works pretty good. Does it work pretty good? It doesn't work pretty good because we don't have the read. That is the same problem of yesterday. So yesterday in the prep, took a while here, but we understood one thing. In the documentation, and I never know how to find it back, but there is somewhere when you click okay, so this is this one, connection polling. Yeah. So they say here's a multiplexed connection. It's cheap to clone. That's good. And can be used safely concurrently for multiple threads. So a single connection can be easily reused. Okay, that's great. And I think it's okay when you are using it for get and set kind of business. I don't know if it's a bug, but what we found out yesterday is that that doesn't make sense, yeah? Because we have the reader started, the reader finished, but the reader didn't read anything. But the writer was happy, write everything. So that doesn't make sense. So the thing that we found out yesterday is that while by reading the documentation, we can, okay, I'm going to answer. Yeah, we could see, I was sleeping the main thread before deleting the stream. No, we're waiting until the people they're ended. I think it's okay. I think that is okay. But you're right. This would be the things, and this is what we did yesterday. We put like weight everywhere. And it was a little bit frustrating because, we waited there and then things didn't add up. Sometimes it kind of worked, but everything was sequential and shouldn't have been sequential. So again, this is where use AI as much as possible. This whole thing about not using AI because AI does mistakes sometimes is silly. The whole thing about not using AI because people are using AI in a silly way, the vibe coders, that is also a bad reasoning, either one. Yeah. So we need to use AI. We just don't trust it. Sometimes it does good job, sometimes it does bad job. Doesn't matter. Use it to save time. Yeah. So that is why I created AI Pack, Procoder, and all these kind of things. But you can use Claude or whatever. And I'm going to make sure that we can use AI Pack behind Claude if we want, and it's going to be very cool. So with MCP. But the point is that here, what we've learned yesterday, because we assumed that the dogs that we were all happy. And in fact, what we've learned is to say, forget about this guy. We're not going to do that here. We're going to create a new connection, and it's fine. And in fact, it's what you want. Yeah. I don't think it's a problem here. And we want that. So I comment it out to make sure it's kind of do the things. I like the new naming. And now, fair enough. Now this guy is not happy. Here I could have reused one of the guy, but mute. Boom. That's it. It works. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So now it does work. Yeah. So now we have the things here that work. So I don't know if it's a bug or something. They say in the doc somewhere that there's some scenarios with whatever, and it get complicated. My advice here is, I don't think there's any benefit of reusing. I think if you write, and you're okay to have the write moreover sequential or whatever, which is a lot of things. So rather to use a pool using their clone is very good. That I will use that. So for example, if a lot of people can, that is what I will do. If a lot of part of my system can write, I will have one writer connection, and then I will clone it for people, because that was the design of the library, and I think it's fine. I think the reader, in our case, I think it should be another kind of connection. So that will be my pattern, just to be safe, and I don't think there's a big issue. And usually the reader, you don't need to clone it so much, because you are going to, I mean, for me anyway, I'm going to abstract it with the message, the channel, the Rust channel business anyway. So I'm going to have one loop that will read, and then after I have the control in Rust, if I want to dispatch it to multiple or not. Yeah, but that is not a concern of the Redis layer. So bottom line is, nice, working very nicely. Yes, we have the read started, the writer started, we sent ValKey, and then this is why it's starting to read. Yeah, so we read the 0 here. I mean, we read the 0 over there, stuff. Now I'm going to do a little addition now. So I can do that for you here. Git C, and we're going to say C03 async fix threading issue, I think. Connection issue, which is concurrency, yeah? And usually, because we fix a bug here, I will do something like that. And then I'm happy with those guys. So it's funny, yeah? The AI kind of went to my best practices guys and knows that was my debug print, which is super cool. So now I'm going to do that. That was a fix. So I'm going to do that. Yeah. I'm going to press save to make sure everything fine, everything good. And then I am going to do git push. Git PO. Boom, you have it on your side. So if you go to the GitHub over there, this guy, you will have it. So that's pretty cool. Now, one thing I don't really like on this one, and again, I work exactly as I will be working for myself if I were alone. Yeah. One thing I don't like about this is the fact that it does that we're sequential here, which I think is fine because it's part of our business. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fake heavy processing. So we're going to assume that we have only one guy that can do. The reader is a processing. Yeah? It reads and it does some job or whatever. So every time it's going to read here, it's going to read, receive. And then I'm going to say, and then what I'm going to say. So here is read all the IDs, which is a stream record, super confusing the names. And then well, I'm going to sleep here because that will be the where, yeah? So I'm going to do a sleep of 500 milliseconds. Oh, we're going to do 800, okay? And then I'm going to say println. Yeah. Reader. Okay. So this way, this is exactly what I wanted. So what I wanted is to make sure that the thing is not sequential, because we could have been in a corner case here where, it works well because, we send and we read at the same time. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we can write many at a time and it's unrelated to what is being read. And then the other guy is reading the things. And so that is what's happening. It's reading, and it's reading until 4, which is perfect. And so everything runs pretty well. Okay, Xavier, are we sleeping in the mainframe? So I don't think that is needed. Is clone on connection is just like arc cloning? Didn't understand why it works by creating multiple connection. I don't think it's so. I don't. So every time this stuff is a little bit a tricky part here. But you see, I think there is some sort of state there or something. Yeah. I don't know. But it's this guy here. This handle answers that once all the clones of the connection will be dropped, the underlying task will stop. That's pretty cool. This handle is only set in connection with tasks can spawn by the crate, not user who span their own task. Okay, so that is an internal business stuff. All of that to say that I think that this guy has stuff in it. And so, yes, that can be cloned, but it's not an arc of, when you create a new connection, you create this new beast. Yeah. So I do think, again, if you want to have multiple read and write, wherever here we're reading and writing the same stream, I think it's better to have one for each. Yeah. Now, if I had multiple readers at some point, for example, in Rust Web Apps, I will probably create this connection once and then clone it to everybody's at home. And use a clone, if I need to own it. Yeah. So that is what I will do in my things. The funny thing is you do need to have it mute. Yeah. If it's not mute, it's kaboom. Yeah. You cannot send anything. So we are going to have to clone it. So it's not a thing that we cannot clone. Yeah. So this obviously, since it's mute, I'm answering my own question. Since it's mute, it's its own maintained state, whatever it is. So that is anyway the pattern I was going for before and so on. So this is why, and I'm going to add a note, even doc Redis rs doc, say we can reuse clone that guy for read write on stream, better to have different connections. No. Okay, that is enough to remind me of stuff. It doesn't have to be something for outside people, but that will remind me of the stuff. And so that's it. That's pretty cool. So I like that a lot. So I'm going to go back there, git log, git c, dot minor c03, just my best practice. Yeah, async, add comment, whatever. So that is pretty cool. 10:59. So we have done 1 hour and a half. So that is a pretty good session. So I think that is good. Not sure if we want to do more. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat over there. But I think this one is a pretty good one. So now we have this. So my goal here, I'm going to say that my goal, and usually I pin this guy, is to create the lib such as I can wrap Redis stream, Redis RS, which is a good library, yeah? But I want to wrap it and to scope it down to what I want for my own development. Yeah, when for my Rust web apps and when I want to use Redis stream as a queue, I want to kind of wrap it. And the challenge here is I don't want to be too typed, so it's going to be layered. And the layer at the bottom, I don't want to be too typed. I want to keep the thing relatively untyped in a way. Perhaps with JSON for the payload, I don't know. One thing which is very important, and that is key, yeah? The fields here, those guys, yeah, which is the fields of your entry. Make sure you always use as much as possible name-value pair. What we don't want is to have payload and then a JSON string. Because then if we have that, we don't use the smart things of ValKey Redis, which is they are saving a lot of space by not duplicating the strings in memory of the names of the values, yeah, the key, those guys. And so if we put everything there, then the string will duplicate everything. And that will be a 10x, 100x, or whatever memory, usage. If we flatten it out, that could be good. One thing that I'm thinking about is having a little tool that take a value, for example, and then I can flatten, set a value, sorry, and then I can flatten it into a flat level of name value, and then if it's an object, then it will do the braces. It will serialize as a JSON object, and if it's a string or anything else, it will go there. And that could be nice. The trick of that is the way stored is that guy is always a string. So, for example, we can go back actually there, and we can say, can we give just a number? Yeah, it's always a string. So even if we pass a number, this guy is a number, we'll have a string here. So, and that is the way the protocol works, which is fine. So I don't want to go too deep, but my problem with my strategy of serializing JSON into a flat things like that is that we are going to lose, it's not going to be symmetrical. Yeah? Because if we pass a number, if the setted JSON value has a number as a value, then it will always be passed as a string, stored in Redis side as a string, and then when we get back, we get as a string. Now we can try to be smart to say, well, if a string that is a number, then it's a number, but that is a wrong smart, yeah, because that means that we try to parse every single string, which we don't want. And second is, sometimes it might not be even the case. Sometimes you might have a number in a JSON, which is actually a string, and that is by design, yeah. So the fact that it's a number for the string might be a coincidence. We don't know. So that would be the wrong assumption. Long story short is, we need to think about, what we want to do in our objects to be flexible in a way and symmetrical in a way. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask anything. I think we're pretty good on this guy. So we're going to leave it that for this stream here. Might be doing some other stream. There's streams that I want to do more on reacting to some news and things. So that might be what I'm going to do as well. So for example, there was a whole pseudo Rust kind of discussion last week. That is a good one. And then sometimes there's a lot of people that have perspective on AI and coding and stuff. And so I want to share my perspective as well, without saying anybody is wrong or right, but more about, sharing different point of views, of how to do the things. Hopefully you like this stream. If you liked it, make sure to press like and subscribe and share. And this one will be public. Actually, if I go, how do I don't know how I can, settings, and I'm going to make sure that this one will be public as soon as I press end the stream. And until next one, happy coding. Yes.